Hi, guys. I'm Nina,
I'm Ethan.
and we are Bloody Essentials. We have a very special guest with us. All of our guests are special, but Laura is somebody we actually met through Dolls of Horror. So we have kind of returning family with us. This is Laura is Spooky on Instagram.
Hello! I'm so happy to be here.
We're happy to have you.
Oh, thank
Absolutely.
you.
Yes, we're very happy to have you on. Jamie and I had so much fun with you on the Dolls of Horror podcast, so we definitely had to have you back on our show, Bloody Essentials. So
Yeah, when you guys messaged me, I was like, yes, sign me up. I'm on board, 100%.
absolutely. Anytime to talk about horror movies with your friends, right?
Oh my god, exactly. It's the best part.
Yes. Before we get started, we're going to talk about some upcoming announcements. Ethan, me, and Jamie will all be at help me out here. Days of the Dead, Indianapolis, 4th of July weekend. That's coming up. Again, in case you ever get tired of hearing it, that was where Ethan and I met. So we're very excited to be back
Yes.
there. We will also be at Flashback here in Chicago, August 4th through the 6th. And after that, we will be at Ohio Terracon. What's the date for that?
August 14th and 15th, I believe.
Yes, that's
Yes.
a brand new horror con. We're very excited. Whole Day Enchilada podcast invited us to that, and we are very thankful to be going there. So that'll be a lot of fun. Ethan, I'm gonna pass it over to you so you can talk about our trivia night coming up.
All right, guys. Like we said, we're having a trivia night. We have decided that it's going to be in the first part of October. We have already started getting the questions ready. Like I said, there's going to be regular questions about obviously horror, stuff that we've said on here. There's going to be stuff that we've said about us personally and what we like. So obviously we want to, put that out there so you know a little bit more about us as well. We have started putting the gift boxes together. We've got some really good prizes. I'm not going to tell you what they are yet, but like I said, they are valued. The first place prize is valued between $75 and $100, and the second place prize is between $50 and $75. Of course, all of our Patreons will get the first chance to come on after we've gone through the Patreons. Everybody else, we're going to go ahead and open it up. Send us a message. We will put all of the names of the people who have said they wanted to, and on air we'll pull the name out. That way everybody has the fair chance.
Absolutely, yep. So again, if you're not sure how to sign up, you can just send us a message, whether it's on our social medias or through email. All of those links can be found in the description below. And first priority is 2 Patreons, and we can only pick 5 people. So if you want to be involved, please contact us as soon as possible. Let's get back to Laura. So Laura, we are covering Ghosthouse or La Casa III from 1988.
Mhm.
Now, tell us first off, what got you into horror? Let's start with that.
So I've been watching spooky stuff. So I'm an 80s, 90s kid,
Mhm.
like staunch millennial. I grew up watching like Goosebumps and Scooby Doo and like all the spooky stuff in the early 90s that we grew up on. And then as I got a little bit older, and this is like because right now we're recording at the end of May, and this is like my second October, the best time of year I
Yes.
I feel to be watching horror movies because this was the time of year you'd start having these late nights where the sun is out until 10 p.m. and
Mhm.
you would stay up late with your friends and you'd go to the video store and rent a bunch of horror VHS just based on the cover alone, and you'd take them home and watch all these movies that for the most part weren't scary, but you were like 12 and 13, so you thought they were really scary. And it's this nostalgia for me mixed with like I love the stories. It's like this weird comfort for me, and I watch horror movies almost every day. It's just I have it on the background while I work. I just love
Yep.
them.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I grew up on Goosebumps and all those 90s horror. Blockbuster was my home away from home. So,
And like my first non-nepotism, like my parents got me this job for summer. My first job I got on my own was at the local video store, and it wasn't like Blockbuster. It was an independent store in the small town I grew up in, and like it it really felt some days like working in the video store equivalent of Empire Records. Like, it was just like a group of young people just like goof offs and with customers and such. It was great, but again, rose-colored glasses on that for sure.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And what is so special to you about Ghost House?
Ghosthouse was one of the first movies that I watched when I discovered the treasure trove that is Tubi for horror movies. I was just once I, like, burned through a whole bunch of, like, the ones where I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is on here. I've always wanted to see this movie." I started going, "Well, I'm gonna just do what I did at the video store. I just pick something based on the cover that is some weird '80s movie I'd never heard of and just pick it based on the cover." And I'd watched a couple and they were kinda, they're all right. They're mid, what are you gonna do? And then I saw this movie, Ghosthouse, with this cover with this ghost girl with a clown head, in her lap in front of a spooky house, and I was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "I'll watch it." And I watched, and I didn't get any work done. I was just completely enthralled. I was like, and then it ended, and I was just like, "What the hell did I just watch?" I loved it, but I have no idea what I just watched. And I've probably watched it 6 or 7 times now, and I am just finally getting to the point where I'm like, "Ah, yes, I know these characters, I know the plot, it's starting to make sense." It's just this bonkers movie, but it really is also the movie that got me into, um, Italian '80s horror, as, like, its own genre of these oddball, strange, like, they're not the same as, like, a North American horror movie. They're not written the same way. A lot of times they're dubbed. The directing style is different. It's not what you'd get out of, like, a Friday the 13th slasher or, like, Witchboard or all these other, like,
Yeah.
American movies of the same time. They're very much that Italian influence, 'cause despite the fact that it says it's directed by Humphrey Humbert, it's directed by Umberto Lenzi.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so, like, it very much is Italian, and, like, did you know I don't know if you read the IMDb trivia, but the house that they used for the filming is the same house as House by the Cemetery.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's a
Yeah,
big,
yeah.
yeah. Jamie
Us
would love that because she loves Fulci. So yeah, Italian
yeah,
horror is her big baby.
I love the house. I absolutely, again, it is its own character in the movie too.
Oh
Like, he's
yeah.
nutty, but yes, I watched it and then nothing has stuck with me. I couldn't stop thinking about this movie because I was like, "What was that song? What was this? Why?"
Yeah.
But in the best way. And then, like, reading into this movie about, like, why it's called La Casa III rather than
Mhm.
Ghost House, it's everything you could want in an American, Italian, '80s haunted house slasher horror.
Absolutely, yeah. It's I haunted house stories are some of my favorite subgenre of horror. And this one is very unique and it doesn't feel like Italian horror, it really doesn't. So, I honestly thought it was Canadian before I started doing
Uh,
research into it. It just felt more like Canadian to me, but, maybe
I
that's
could
its
see
charm.
that. I could
Yeah,
see that because, like, obviously, the production values are not exceptionally high. It does
right.
kinda have that Canadian grindhouse look to it.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um, I definitely see what you're going for there, because like, I get it. Because like, you look at, like, these like, the movies coming out from Canada around that time, like,
yeah,
earlier still, but, like, things like Prom Night, it has that great
yeah.
echo of Prom Night.
Definitely.
Yep.
All right. We're gonna go ahead and jump into plot points. Laura, bear with me. I really tried. There's a lot going on in this movie.
Yes,
I had
there
to use IMDb to get the character names, okay?
oh, I know, like, and the fact that the women all kind of look the same and the
Yes.
guys all kinda look the same, except for, I don't know if you caught his name, but Pepe, who is
No.
the hitchhiker.
I
Yeah.
never caught his name. I just called him the
No.
hitchhiker.
Yeah, and I was just like, again, the first couple times I watched it, and then I look at the credits, I'm like, "Who the hell is Pepe? Was there a Pepe?" And then looking
Yeah.
at it, it's like, oh, the hitchhikers. So like the movie starts out in this creepy old house with
Yes.
this little girl who's inherently creepy,
Oh
and she
yeah.
has killed a cat, and her dad like locks her in a basement, but then super, and it's very much got like that tourist trappy where it's like supernatural
Yeah.
slasher,
Oh
where
yeah.
things are just happening in a slasher way, but there's no one physically doing it.
Exactly.
And the dad and the mom both die, and you don't find out what happens to the little girl. And next thing you know, it's like, what, 20 years later or something? And
Yeah.
Yes.
I love the fact that ham radio plays a very important part in this movie.
Yes.
Like, how 80s is that? But
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
And can I say that I loved the parents' kills, both of them.
oh,
They
so
they
good.
they were so awesome 80s kills.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
the light bulb effect where it kind of stretches
Yes.
and then
Yes.
explodes. That was gorgeous. I want to know so badly how they did that. I couldn't find any information about it.
No, no, the trivia itself and like the technical stuff, it doesn't really elaborate on a lot because there is so many cool effects that just who it's gone. Like how
Yeah.
does this happen?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you've got Martha and Paul loves ham radio. That's his jam. And then they hear this recording and it's so even in just recording form, it's so badly acted. I just love
Yes.
the
Yeah.
recording and it's just like, no, no, no. And you're just like, what is this? And they eventually like track the recording to this house that has been abandoned, and like they meet Pepe. Pepe is a character that I was not upset when Pepe got it because he is very annoying. Like,
He's
Yeah.
he's
does any
very obnoxious where he's got the skeleton hand trying to creep Martha out and
yeah.
he's like, you should believe in ghosts. Why don't you believe in ghosts? And he stole money from Martha apparently and
Yeah, and like
like
and it was the 80s. I kind of like, was that skeleton hand a real skeleton? Because
it
it
kind of looks
was
like
Yeah.
it,
cheaper to use real than plastic,
which
as
is
Poltergeist has
crazy.
taught us.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For Italian horror, it would not surprise me if it was a real skeleton hand, honestly.
same. Yeah, and like they eventually like lose this guy Pepe, who you don't know his name until like until right before he dies.
Right.
And he mentions it once, but yes, his name is Pepe. And he's very odd, but they show up to this house. Oh, and
Hmm.
this movie does have a harbinger. It's got the creepy old man who's like, "Don't go there," you know.
Did they ever say his name in this movie? Because again, I had to look on IMDb. I called him Overalls Boy the entire time.
Yes,
Yeah,
she
his
did.
name is Valkos.
Valkos, yes.
Valkos, yes, yes.
Which is such a strange name. Like it sounded like a demon name,
Yeah,
which
and I feel like that
Harbinger, I guess, but yeah.
might be, yeah, I feel like it's on purpose because you're supposed to think he's a bad guy and he's a creepy guy, so they got to give him a
Yeah,
creepy, like vaguely Eastern European name, maybe.
right.
But yeah, and they show up at this house and they're there and exploring, and obviously weird stuff's happening, and then they find there's other people there that like when they go outside, their camper van is parked right there. It's like, how did you not know that they were there? The camper
Right.
van is
Yeah.
like right
It's
there.
right there in the front yard, and also it seems a little too easy the way they track down that radio signal. Like
Yeah,
they seem
so
much
easy.
further away than what they actually were
Yeah.
because yeah.
It's just they I don't know how he hacked the ham radio to triangulate the
Yeah.
I don't know
I love
what
the
he
moment when
did.
they're explaining all of these things on how they're going to track it and it's like all of a sudden boom science and it's like all right, we got it, road trip, and I'm like, "What?"
But how? But yeah,
How?
they meet, and this is where it starts, and if it wasn't confusing before, this is where it gets even more confusing. So
Yeah, because
they
you've
meet
got
these
all these basic names. You've got Jim and Tina and
it's
what are some of the
Jim,
others?
Tina, and Mark and their siblings, and Mark's
Yes,
girlfriend Susan. And they've got
Susan.
a camper van and a motorcycle.
Yes.
And they're just cannon fodder. Like, let's be
Yeah.
real. Like they're there to be killed.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, the screaming sounds like I think it's Jim. I think it's
Yes.
Jim's
Yeah.
voice that they
It's
is they're like,
Jim's voice
"Oh,
on the tape. Yeah.
yeah," and he's like, "Why is this? Where did you get this? And how does it sound like
Yeah.
me?" And it doesn't. And then you finally meet Henrietta, the little girl, and she's
Yes.
holding her clown doll.
And that creepy music is playing.
I have no idea what the song is to this day.
No clue.
Um, they like play it backwards at one point, and I still can't make out what it's trying to say there either. It doesn't make any sense, but Henriette is obviously like a creepy ghost child, which is always creepy, but she's holding a clown dress, which again kind of looks like the clown from Poltergeist.
I was just about to say, did they borrow it from Poltergeist?
So
That
I'm like,
totally reminded me of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I was just like, what? But then when the doll is evil, its face changes and it's got the
Yes.
creepy fangs, which
Yes.
is just like,
I love how the face changes. That was so
yeah.
much fun. I want
Well,
to know if they had two separate dolls or what was going on.
that way you know that the doll
Yeah,
is evil because the audience can't figure that out from
that's
like the
true.
happy face. You need to make sure the doll look evil.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and then you hear Jim screaming like the recording, and it's even worse
It's
with the
even worse when you have the acting
seeing
with
it
it.
because yeah, he's just standing there like, no, stop, help
Don't.
me, and it's just the worst acting. Sorry to the guy who plays Jim. I don't know if he's been in anything else. Um,
For his sake, hopefully not. I love the part where he finally screams just before he dies because it's like he was intentionally trying to make it sound masculine. He
yeah,
didn't want to sound like a scream queen, which I get, but like, oh, it was bad.
he has 3 acting credits. He was band member in a movie from 1983, this movie, and then a movie in 1997 called Galaxy Girls.
Never heard of those.
No.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so that paints a picture.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then he dies, and like the cops show up, and then everyone just does the right thing and leaves.
Right.
Which is
Well,
like,
let's talk
what?
about the kill real quick because the kill is fun.
This is true. This is true.
So we've
So
got the
yeah.
fan. The fan is going, and he has that moment where he realizes the fan is going, but it's not plugged in. There's no motor in the fan, and then all of a sudden, one of the blades just comes off from the fan, and then just cuts him right in the neck.
Yeah, and it's such a tourist trap style kill because like
Yeah.
it's like it's well it is, it's done psychically. And
Mhm.
then um the others find the body, and Velcro
Yeah.
shows up.
Yeah.
And they like find the body and they accuse Velcos of doing it, and the cops show up, and they're just like, oh well, it's got to be Velcos. He was creepy all along.
Yeah.
And so everyone's just like, oh okay, time to go. And like you never see that in a horror
You
movie.
never see that. Not that soon. No.
No, and like it almost was like the only time I can think of where I've seen it's like, well, creepy stuff happened. Someone died. We're just gonna leave was Insidious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they did
And
that whole twist where it followed them to the next house. Yeah.
yeah, and so like, but Paul and Martha leave, but like Paul, the ham radio guy, he's like obsessed with what's going on, obviously.
Yeah.
And like he starts to do like research on what the hell happened. Well, the others go to leave the house, but then they don't leave the house.
Yeah,
And
it was at this point where I had to kind of rewind a little bit because I'm like, wait, what's going? They're already leaving the house, and then like all of a sudden the camper's broken down, and I wasn't sure exactly. I felt like there was a deleted scene in there somewhere because
oh,
he just
probably.
randomly pulls up at a funeral home, and I'm like, what, why?
Yeah,
Like what?
so Paul and Martha decide they're gonna like research what the
Yes,
hell's happening. And they go to the funeral home that the dad that died, Sam Baker, worked at, and they talked to
yeah,
another um, funeral home employee who worked with him, and he's like, "Yeah, he was a good dude, except he would steal stuff from the
yeah,
dead." And I'm just like, "That's
right.
not a good
That's
dude.
not a
Yeah,
good
that's
dude.
not
He's
a
a
good dude.
bad man. You
Yeah.
don't do
And the
that."
fact that they kept him so long after they
Yeah,
knew he did this, I'm like, and he took the clown doll. It's revealed the clown doll he took as a present for his daughter. I'm like, sir,
No.
you can't afford to buy your daughter toys? Like, come
And not
on.
even you.
That doll
It's
is
one
creepy.
thing to like, okay, I'm gonna steal. Like, it's not good, but it's like, well, this lady is being buried in this expensive ring. I shall steal the ring, pawn the ring, use the money
Right.
to pay my rent.
Right.
Still not good. I don't support, but okay. But you are giving which is probably another dead child's
Right.
doll to your own child. You are asking to be haunted.
Exactly. And not only that, but it's like this was their final wish to be buried with this particular item. Like the family requested, the person being buried requested. That's just gross on a whole other level.
So, and like, it's like, yeah, and then not long after, they all died horribly. And you find out like that the girl was like locked in the basement, and
Yeah.
like, it's just because she apparently, like, it sounds like she was like not a crazy kid until after she got the doll, and then she starts killing like
Right.
cats and stuff.
Red flag number one.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, like, they leave, and then Velko shows up and kills the other funeral home worker for reasons.
Basically for just talking to Paul and sharing secrets about the family, kind of.
Yeah, which is like, but why? If anything, they were going to help clear your name, and now
Right.
instead you've simply committed an actual murder
Mhm.
for
Well,
reasons.
again, what we find out with Valkos is that the house, belongs to the county, and Valkos is from a mental hospital, and they hired him to be the caretaker of the house. I'm like, first off, great hiring process. Like, what was your screening process like? Was there just no one else that wanted the job? Like,
To
no,
be fair, I doubt anybody else wanted the job.
probably
Right.
not. Yeah, not in that town. It's pretty small. But yeah,
Mhm.
I'm like, maybe not such a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like the cops are like, well, like the ME to the cops is like, well, there's no way Valkos could have done this. The only thing that makes sense, and he can, which is just, I don't think with 1988 forensic technology, this ME or coroner could have been like, it was a fan blade at this
Yeah.
angle, because like
Yeah.
was blood spatter evidence, which has been mostly discredited now. Like, was
Right.
that even a thing? And like he's
No.
just, and the cop was like, "Shut up! No, it's Velcos.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not dealing with this." We go back to, because like you said, the RV breaks down, and so the other people, they go back in the house. Well, no, because one of them is in the camper, and the camper goes crazy.
Tina's in the
Yeah.
camper a
That's
lot.
it. Yes.
Yeah. For some reason, they have to keep mentioning that she's a notorious liar. And so I guess when she has to tell these outlandish stories of things that happened to her, they're like, oh, Tina, like, that kind of thing.
You're
But yeah,
crazy.
yeah, Tina's watching TV as she tends to do. And all of a sudden, the little girl Henriette comes on the TV with her doll, and she starts bleeding from her eyes, and then the camper starts shaking.
The bleeding from the eyes. That's so like
Yeah,
obviously just makeup. Like, it's not like actual like FX makeup. It's literally just,
exactly.
it's like, I've got some red lipstick in my bag. Let's get this done. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and the song again is there, as it's great. And then I just love this movie so much. It's so weird. But like they because they're back in the house, and it's the girlfriend who's the motorcycle girl,
Susan,
Susan.
yes.
Yeah, and she like is like washing her face,
And then
and
the
then all of a sudden it
blood
turns to
starts coming out of
blood,
the
which is
sink. Yeah.
great trope.
Very
Like,
fun.
but again, and it just happens with no setup. It's just, she's like, I'm gonna wash my face in this
Yeah.
creepy house. Who turned the plumbing on?
Right. There's no way. There's no way that would be
Yeah, like,
working. Yeah.
yeah. So everyone except for Paul and Martha and Susan
Mhm.
eventually gets it, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's
Mark ends up dying
mhm.
because he's initially taken to the hospital, and then he comes back, and
Yes.
we'll get to that. But So the hitchhiker dies.
Oh,
He goes
Pepe,
into
yes,
the
Pepe.
house. Yeah,
Pepe
Pepe
shows
dies.
back up,
Yes.
and he's just like, I'm going to get some snacks, and starts eating stuff in the house, which is like,
That's been there for decades at this
Yeah.
point.
yeah, I'm
And
just
he's
like,
surprised that it's not good anymore.
Well,
yeah, and there's-
I don't think Pepe is altogether there anyway.
this is
So
true.
That's true,
yeah.
Right
yeah.
off the bat, I'm just like, I feel like this might actually be an offensive betrayal at some points in this movie.
Right.
But
Right.
again, it was
Yeah.
1988.
There's
But
that.
yeah, but
I
yeah.
Oh my god. He's an interesting character. He does
Yeah.
not care. He's like, it's a roof.
That's
Yep.
it.
That's literally what he says. He's
Yeah,
like, it's a roof, isn't it?
he has grown on me as I've watched this film. He is an odd duck and not like many characters you will see in a lot of horror movies. I feel like um who's the one in Friday the 13th part 2? 3, part 3, who's the annoying guy?
Shelley.
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 Yes, Shelley in part 3. Same idea, just like this annoying trickster type character
hate
who
him.
you're just waiting for him to die. You want them to get it because they're
Yes.
annoying, and they're annoying to everyone around them. So again,
Mhm.
it almost, again, it feels like he's a character that was like written in after. It's like, well, we've
Yeah.
only got this many kills. How do we pump up these numbers a bit? These are rookie numbers. You got to pump them up.
Right.
And they're like, well, we can throw in a hitchhiker.
He
And that's
definitely
how
seems like an
Pepe.
afterthought. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Pepe
I don't
is
even remember his death. Did it
he
happen
gets
on screen or was it on off screen?
no, he gets like stabbed in the head, or it might have been a hammer in the
Okay.
head. He's hit in the head, and then he thunk. That's
Yeah,
right.
that's probably why I
thump.
don't remember it.
Yeah, pretty straightforward kill. Nothing crazy. It's not like it gets too
We had a much better kill coming up with
yes.
Tina. This is
Oh,
what I'm so excited to talk about this one. So Tina, she goes back into the house because she actually wants to help Pepe and get him out of the house. She's like, he needs to be helped. He doesn't know what's going on here. He hasn't been here with all of us. So she tries to go back in the house and let Pepe know what's going on. And as she does, she discovers mutilated rat bodies just hanging, suspended in the air. And I don't even know what fell on her to make this happen. It looked like they somehow had a makeshift guillotine in their attic,
yeah.
which with this family, who knows, probably.
He stole it
But
off someone who was dead.
yeah, she sees Henriette for a second with her clown doll, and then all of a sudden this blade comes down, chops her in half, and her body goes like, and there's this great frame where you've got the first half of Tina and the bottom half of Tina, and then the rocking horse in the center of the frame that just blocks you from seeing the middle that's missing, basically.
Yeah,
I love that frame. It's gorgeous.
It's such a funny, like, over the top
Yes.
kill, which is just like, it's perfect for an 80s Italian like horror movie because it's over the top in such a fun way.
Yeah.
But you're right, she definitely gets the best death out of all of them. Like the
Oh,
fan
yeah.
blade is pretty good, but
Yeah.
this is definitely my favorite one too.
You don't see anybody getting cut in half very often, and you even see the intestines for a little bit. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
It definitely stands apart from the other kills. It's my favorite.
Yeah, you could tell they put a
Absolutely.
fair bit of the budget into this
Oh,
shot.
Yeah. And she's a little annoying, so you're ready to be rid of her after a certain point.
Yeah, and that's like, except for Pepe, I don't think any of the characters are like loathsome, but there's no one who's like super endearing because Martha is. She just all of a sudden, like at one point, she's like, "I'm leaving. I'm breaking up with Paul." Like she doesn't say I'm breaking up, but I'm leaving. And next thing you know, she's in the car going back with him, and she's like,
I never got that.
And I'm like, "You said you were done, and now you're here." Like again, was this like scene deleted where he like convinced her to go with him?
Yeah.
She's just there again, and like she should have she should have not. I mean, reasonably.
Right.
I mean, at the very beginning, when they pull up to the house, she's like, there's something evil about this house. I am not going in. We need to turn around. Like, this girl knows she's in a horror movie, but
Mhm.
she has no way to get out because she rode with Paul.
I do like that they kept her. I don't quite know what accent,
That's how I felt with everybody in this
Yeah.
movie. Yeah.
but like she's got the
Again,
strongest accent, and I'm not
yeah.
quite sure where the actress is from. Well, you know what?
I'm curious to know if they
She's
dubbed
German.
anybody
She is,
over. She's German. Okay,
yeah.
that
So
makes
she's
sense.
German, which I mean, for being in a Italian movie, that's pretty common.
Oh, yeah.
And so she with the accents, they tend to dub them, right? Like,
Yes.
especially, well, most Italian movies are just dubbed in general because they're filmed
Yeah.
without audio.
Right.
But so for her to have been left with her original accent
Mm-hmm.
is outside the norm for Italian cinema. So
Very.
if anything, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Because
But yeah,
normally what happens is the cast, they don't usually speak the same languages. So they're just
Mhm.
reading their lines in whatever language they end up speaking, and then they redub them with English later because that's just for some reason the main language, because they obviously knew in America they'd get a wider release and stuff like that. So
and
that's
not
just what
just
they end up
that.
doing.
So a little bit of fun Italian cinema information for trivia for you, which
Yeah.
I learned from James May's A Man in Italy.
Oh,
Um, Italy has always been like the dubbing
yes.
leaders, like into the technology and such.
Right.
And like many countries that are made up of many small regions that kind of
Mhm.
have just been, we're just going to become one big country, whether it be by our own accord or by
Right.
colonialism, whatever. But they all had different dialects. So
Mhm.
someone in like Naples isn't going to speak the same as someone in Rome. They're both Italian, but
Right.
they have essentially a different language.
Yeah.
Cinema was intentionally dubbed in Italy, even in Italian, because everybody spoke these different regional dialects as a
Hmm.
unification to basically bring everyone in Italy to be using the same dialect to make
Hmm.
communication between all of Italy simpler.
Wow. That is very
Yeah.
fascinating.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So there's your Italian history trivia for the day. Yeah,
Thank
but
you.
they became world leaders in it because, and again, this was part of, why things were filmed without audio is they
Right.
would then dub it all in the same dialect, and then they dub
Mhm.
it all in English, and they just wouldn't record sound like Horror Express with Peter Cushing's and Christopher
Mhm.
Lee. Like even like they've done a lot of Italian movies too,
Yeah.
but they talked about, I remember watching something about that where they were talking about how like they had to go back and dub it because of how Italian cinema's filmed, and just hearing them talk about like the dubbing and such from these old interviews, because obviously they've both long since passed on.
Yeah.
It's interesting how different the process is.
Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure. I also think it was probably easier. I can't imagine as a director trying to give direction to an actor that doesn't speak their native tongue as well, because, obviously like Argento and Fulci, they were Italian directors. I know they spoke some English, but it wasn't as
Mhm.
well as some of their English actors or whatever. But I
Yeah,
cannot imagine trying to give direction to an actress and you can't speak their language. Like that's just crazy to me. So I'm sure not recording sound would be a lot easier because it
and
must be a grueling process.
this is one thing I always kind of wondered too, because like obviously I was not there.
Right.
How not how much of a challenge it must be for the actors to be like, okay, your co-star
Yeah.
is performing their scenes in German while you're speaking Italian, and the third actor in the scene that's going to enter the scene speaks English, and
Hmm.
like knowing your cues based off that.
Yeah,
Right.
And like that
absolutely.
must have been fairly tricky. And like it's not like most of these films had like long shooting schedules where they'd be like,
No.
okay, we'll come back to this tomorrow, and like we missed our marks, but we got it. They were like, boom, 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 we got to get this done. Like
Hmm.
we're kind of trespassing here. Like we gotta go.
Yeah.
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 So
You can't make a movie like that anymore, and it's baffling to think that people used to do this all the time.
Right.
all the time, all the time,
Yeah.
and like so many of these movies, like I've seen a lot of people online asking, it's like, well, where can I find the original audio for these movies? It's like, no, it
You
does not
can't.
exist. It
It's
Right.
doesn't.
gone.
It's not a thing. It was
Yeah.
never recorded because they're
Mhm.
like, well, I want to hear it in the original language. It's like, no, 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 that's not how these
You
movies
can't.
work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can find the Italian dub, but
Right.
yeah,
It's still not the original. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
Yeah.
this one and like a lot of the other ones that are similar of this timepiece, like it's very getting back to, it was nice having an actress. I'm sure the actress herself was probably not used to having her own voice
Right.
in English language movies.
She has a
But
beautiful accent, so it was
yeah.
really nice to be able to hear it and experience, her culture in a way in the film. It didn't
Hmm.
get glossed over or, refinished to be perfect. So that was kind of
Yeah.
nice.
And she actually retired, I found out
Oh
as well at
wow. Hmm.
26. Like she was like done with
Wow.
this, and like, I mean, good good for her. If she was done, she was done. But yeah, I kind
Yeah,
of wish I'd seen more from her. I feel like she could have easily kind of parlayed some of these earlier 80s horror into some
for
later
sure.
genre work, like
Yeah.
Linnea Quigley and
Yeah.
Barbara Crampton, who are
Yeah.
still quite popular. But
Love them.
yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
It's a shame that there's a lot of foreign actresses that kind of just quit the business after a certain age and they weren't afforded the same opportunities that American actresses were, especially
But
in horror. Yeah.
and I wonder how much is that like a choice too, because
Yeah.
one, being an actress in general has got to be absolute murder on your self-esteem, and
Mhm.
we've all seen, some of the lengths celebrities go to try to
Yeah.
stay youthful and attractive.
Yeah.
So I mean, perhaps she's just like, that's not the world for me, and I hope that's the case where she was like, I don't want to deal with the pressures of this anymore. And it wasn't
For
like, I
sure.
can't get work, I'm 26 and
Right.
that makes me an old lady now.
Maybe
Yeah,
it's a bit of both. I mean, who
maybe.
knows? Or maybe
Yeah.
she just was, the audition process alone is grueling. Like it's
Oh,
just so exhausting on your mental health. So that's probably a bit of it too.
yeah. No, I couldn't imagine. Like I've personally done like a fair bit of like background work. There's a lot of filming that's done
Yeah.
here, and just even that
Yeah.
is
It's a process to get your foot in the door.
yeah. And I'm like, I couldn't imagine, and because I know right now, like, getting off track, but I know right now there's a lot of discussion around like nepo babies and how they don't understand
Mhm.
that, like, just who was I reading about? I was reading about someone, and they're like, well, nobody was like, oh, you got to hire this person's kid. I've got all this money. Or it's not like, it's having the connections that your name is
Mhm.
recognizable, that to go to these people, and
Right.
that
Right.
you have the opportunity that someone else can pay your rent, pay for your
Yeah.
meals and such while you're going, and you don't need to worry about
You don't need a
booking.
second job or
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have that, even like especially now, and that's why so many actors now are, because I couldn't imagine trying to get
Oh,
your foot in
no.
the door without that.
Yeah, no.
Right.
It would be absolutely scary, and then you, of course, hear about the people that, basically came from a regular family, and they were about to quit acting altogether. They're about to move back home into their parents' basement, and then they got one audition, and it just happened to go right.
Yeah,
And I feel like
and
those are the people that people cling on to
Right.
keep going, and
and
it's
then
like, that's so rare.
how many of those people did move back with their parents because they
Exactly.
gave up? Like, did you guys watch Only Murders in the Building?
Yes, love
I
that
Oh,
have not
show.
yet.
so good. But season 3 with Meryl Streep, her character, like she'd literally her whole life uh trying to be an actress, and it just never happened to her until, like, how old is Meryl Streep these days? She's got to be what, in her 70s?
70s,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and like her character just got a break in her 70s. Like,
on
good for
Broadway,
her to
yeah,
keep going
yeah,
for that long.
exactly.
Most people
Most people do
long
not.
give up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So anyway,
Let's get back to the movie.
let's get back to the movie. Not so much how like none of the actors in this movie Like a few of them have a couple other IMDb credits. A few of them have, like, I think the only like actor in this movie who's got a lot of credits is the actor for Velcos, but he's older
He's much older, yeah.
already.
So yeah,
So like it makes sense that like he'd probably already been fairly established as like a character actor at that point, and it does seem like he was
probably,
in a
yeah.
lot of like spaghetti westerns and
Oh yeah,
horrors, and
yeah,
that looked like his bread and butter.
yeah,
So,
definitely. I'm not sure exactly when this happens. I believe it's Martha that it happens to, where for some reason she ends up in Henriette's bedroom.
oh yeah.
I love this moment. Talk about poltergeist-esque.
Mhm.
There's the moment where she's in the Henriette's bedroom. You don't realize it's her bedroom, but there's a toy chest, and she's for some reason going through the toys, and she finds the clown doll, and then all of a sudden everything is moving around
Yeah.
the room. There's feathers everywhere, and she's just freaking out. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah, very well. You could tell that there's a lot of this movie that's influenced by Poltergeist,
Oh yeah.
Oh.
but like it's almost like a mix of Poltergeist, Tourist Trap, throw in
Yes.
some Evil Dead,
Yes.
and just sprinkle it with Italian horror, and you're off to the races, right?
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
definitely felt some Argento in here too.
oh, absolutely, like some of the
Yeah.
shots and everything, yeah.
Mhm.
But and it doesn't have like quite the same use of like color as an Argento,
Right.
but like what you said with the Prime Blood, where it's like bright red and everything, there
Very
are
bright.
moments.
There's some deep blues in there as well, here and there, but it's
Yeah,
not throughout and
exactly.
as artistic. So,
Yes, yeah, and like, but yeah, and then after everyone, we've gotten all our gory kills.
mhm.
Martha and Paul, I guess, make back up because they've survived, and Susan takes off on her bike,
Yes.
and like, and then the movie at the end, we see Martha, she's waiting for oh no, they do have to sorry, we have to talk about how they solve this. They
Yes.
find Henrietta's body in a
Purely by
mausoleum
happenstance,
by
thanks to
happenstance at the
Valkos.
cemetery.
Yeah.
They find and they do your traditional what reminded me of like back in the days of being a huge Supernatural fan.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
what do you do when there's a ghost? You burn the body,
You burn the
self-burn the
The
body.
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 Yep.
And you don't get like the cool supernatural like the way they go, it's literally and not even the like because like on the cheap where like movies will do that thing where like something pops out of existence, it
Right.
feels like at least a little bit fun the way they do it.
It's almost
This
like
one,
they realize what's about to happen before it happens, and they're like, "No," and then poof, or
yeah,
explosions
there's
and
Yeah.
something, this is
nothing.
literally like you could see where it cuts, like it's the shot is the same, but you could see where it cuts, and the doll disappears and Henrietta disappears, but you could
Yeah.
see where they cut it.
It's like an
So
old school 50s, like, Bewitched episode where
Yeah.
they just, like, disappear out of existence because they
it's
cut the
like
frame
high
and
school
yeah.
drama class where you're making your
Exactly.
first movie.
Yes. The
I
student
remember
project.
when I was in high school, it wasn't even my group's project, but when I was in like 10th grade drama, someone did that in their film. And like, again, this was their first 5-minute short movie that they made on like the old IMAX that were colorful and everything. And they did a better job at that exact same effect. So anyway, yeah, I just like you could tell because the camera, it's the same shot, but it almost
Yeah.
feels like they might have bumped the camera just a little while they were resetting the shot. Like, and then you're like, oh, they saved the day. Henrietta has been put to rest. The clown doll has been sent back to hell. Everything's great. And like
Yeah.
Susan takes off, and Martha and Paul are happily in love again. And then she's back in because they're in what, Boston, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she's like on the street and she's got her cool 80s professional girl clothes on, and then she's waiting for Paul, and Paul's walking down the street to meet her, and then she sees the doll in a shop window. Who's selling this creepy doll?
Right.
And then the music starts, and then she looks at Paul, and she looks back, and the clown's got the fangs again.
Yep.
And then Paul gets hit by a bus, and then the movie ends.
And then it freezes on her face screaming or whatever,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
so
because
80s,
like
so great.
so 80s, and like you see him get hit by the bus, but you don't like see him get, you know what I mean? Like you see him being like, and he doesn't even, he's like, ah, it's like you had time to jump. You had time to, you might have still got, like if you dove, you might have still like got your legs hip. You would have
Right.
survived.
I love that she's like, Paul, look. And it's like, you can't hear the truck coming.
Yeah.
Like, come
And
on, it's a
it's like,
diesel.
yeah, it's so, there's so many like, no, like in Austin Powers where he's like,
Yes,
no.
exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's
Yes.
exactly what it is. The whole
Yeah.
thing is, it's such a easy movie to like rip on, but
Oh, yeah.
at the same time, it's so much fun in its weirdness. And like again, the director did use a nom de plume
Mm,
of Humphrey Humbert. But
yes.
like, no, dude, own it. He used quite a few like pseudonyms, though. It seems like for movies that he was like, not my best work. And he
Doesn't
used
want
them.
anyone to know.
Yeah, it's like, dude, we know the internet exists. We know.
Yeah.
They
No.
might not have known that, but like this whole, and this is another thing with Italian cinema. Like this movie was called Ghosthouse, but then when I was trying to look it up, when I
Oh my
first
gosh.
watched it, everything was like La Casa 3, and I'm like, what the, why? There's 1 and 2 of this movie. I have to see it. No, 1 and 2 are Evil Dead 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Which I was like, wait, what? And yeah, it doesn't make any sense without the context of,
If you don't know it's Italian horror, that's a great way to realize it's Italian horror. So
yes.
basically, it was initially titled Ghost House, which makes sense for this movie, right?
Mhm.
And then they retitled it La Casa 3 to make people think it was part of the Evil Dead franchise, which was hugely successful by this
Yes.
point
Yes.
in 1987, 1988. And they also eventually, because this movie was so successful because of being tied to Evil Dead 1 and 2, they made an Evil Dead or La Casa 4, and I'm curious to know where that is.
Okay, so I've seen that one too. La Casa 4 is also called Witchery, and it stars Linda Blair and David
What?
Hasselhoff.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
my
I
god.
did not know that La Casa 4 was Witchery, but I
Yes.
know Witchery has Linda Blair and David Hasselhoff in it. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and
we're
then
gonna have to
there's
bring you back
others.
to that.
There's La Casa 5, which is Beyond Darkness, and I'm pretty sure there's a La Casa 6.
Wow.
Yeah, and none of them have anything to do with each other, but this is like another Italian
A
trope
staple.
where
Yeah.
where they like Zombie
Yeah.
was called Zombie 2, so people would think it was a sequel to Night
Night
of the
of the
Living
Living
Dead,
Dead. Yeah.
Right.
and it's not. It has nothing to
Yeah.
do with it. But yeah, and this is just a naming like trope that they would use in Italy to get people to see these movies. And it, I mean, it
Talk
worked for
about
me
a
because
trap. Yeah.
but like Witchery is on Tubi, but I don't
Okay.
know if
Yeah.
Beyond Darkness is. I don't think I've seen Beyond Darkness, and
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I've seen there's a La Casa 6, and I don't remember what
Wow.
that one's called. But it's just, it doesn't like, they just kept putting them out.
Yeah. As they tend to do with
Yes.
horror, yeah.
Yeah, but again, they just were like, let's just slap the La Casa name on things, and
It seems
it's
to be
funny.
working for them.
There is actually, wow, okay, nope. La Casa 6 is actually House 2, the second story.
Oh my god. Are you
God.
serious? I love that movie so much.
Oh, so do I. And La Casa 7 is House 3, the horror show.
Oh my God.
So there's 3 franchises that are interconnected.
Yeah,
I
and
love
then
the
2
horror
random
show.
movies.
It's amazing.
Yes.
And like, so it's 2 Evil Dead, 2 random movies, 2 house movies, but not the first house movie.
No. Yeah.
None of it makes sense. None of it makes sense, but it's
None.
No.
amazing.
That is
Yeah.
amazing. You gotta love 80s horror just for this. Like, this is
Yeah,
incredible.
this is the kind of stuff that like I absolutely love. But yeah, I think the only connection with Witchery and Ghost House is that it also takes place in Massachusetts.
Yeah,
That might
makes
be it.
sense.
And it has
Yeah.
actual like known actors in it. And that's it.
Yeah,
Right.
So
for sure.
yeah, it's yeah, Witcher, yeah, I didn't find as fun
Yeah.
as La Casa, because or sorry, La Casa 3, oh my Ghost House. It's such a goofy story. It doesn't make like I said, I've seen it several times now, and it's really starting to like unfold for me. It's like an
Mm.
onion. You have to peel away the layers of this movie for it to make sense. Like I spent $50 plus shipping to get this movie on VHS.
Oh God,
Oh
I'm so
my.
sorry.
No, I am delighted. It's like the gem of my collection. I
Oh my
love this
gosh.
movie. It's just because I appreciate it for what it is, which is nonsense.
I
My
love
taste
that.
is not great. I have terrible, terrible taste, but what can you do?
But at least you have fun with it.
Right.
That's
That's what's
exactly it.
important. And everybody's opinions can be different. You can still like we all enjoy movies that we can admit are crap movies, but they're
Yes.
fun for different reasons that you might
Sure.
enjoy, and Ethan may think it's complete baloney,
Mhm.
which is often what happens with us.
Yeah.
Like I like Willy's Wonderland. I loved Willy's
Oh my
Wonderland.
God, that was horrible.
He hated it.
I
He
like
never wanted to
Willy's
see it again.
Wonderland.
It was horrible.
It was silly Nick Cage nonsense.
At his best.
And I love Nick Cage.
Yeah.
But that movie just didn't do it for me.
Oh no, that movie's great fun. No,
Yeah.
I have a list of movies that I'm like, I think my husband would like this if I made him watch it. And so far, he somewhat enjoyed Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
I love that
Great movie.
Somewhat. He really liked Deep Red.
That's a great list.
What was the other one he actually really enjoyed one that I made him watch, and the rest of all, and this was one of them, and the rest have just been like, he's like, what is wrong with you? What is like I got
That's
him to
usually
watch
what I get.
Yeah, my
I
wife
got him
does
to
that to me
watch
all the time.
Doom Asylum recently, and that movie is an intentional horror comedy, and I was like, oh, he'll like this. It's intentionally silly, and he was like, this is stupid. This is awful. So my success rate is very low.
Well, like I said, everybody has the things that they like and things they don't like, and
Right.
sometimes it's hit or miss. Like sometimes you love horror comedies, but one just doesn't land the same. And
Yep.
Yeah,
what can you do?
this is true.
I
This
have
is
a
true.
couple of fun facts to share, and if
Yes,
I
please.
have others that are missing or whatever, please chime in. But I thought this was interesting. Despite credit citing that Cynthia McGavin was a screenwriter, the screenplay was actually written by Umberto Lindsay. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
Yep.
Yep. Who was Cynthia McGavin? Was that just a name that they made up? Do you know?
I have no idea. This is her only credit.
Interesting. I feel like that would just be a name he made up then, like the
Yeah, to
Humphrey Humberts or whatever.
Yeah, just to be like,
I had a lot of
Not
people working
me.
on this
I didn't
movie.
do
Yeah,
this.
I
Yeah.
didn't do it. Yeah.
yeah.
It was initially released at the Fantastic Film Festival in January of 1988. It was later released May 21st, 1988 in Japan, and then it was finally released in Italy on August 11th of 1988.
Wow.
That's a long time span.
Yeah.
Um, Lindsay was writing this script in January of 1987. He found the funding through Roberto Di Girolamo. I don't know. I'm probably butchering that name. I'm so sorry. I'm not Italian. But he eventually left the project because of his own personal financial issues, which I found really funny.
Oh, I don't think this one was going to make its money back. That's for sure.
Right? Yeah. And as we stated briefly, the film was technically set overseas, but it was shot in Boston.
Yeah,
Or I think, yeah, that's weird.
It is filmed. It's all filmed in like Massachusetts. Like that house, like I said, it's
Okay.
been used
Yeah.
for several movies. But yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting that the house was even still around, because wasn't Zombie by Fulci, wasn't that in 70s? Like late 70s, or am I
I think that was
Early
Early
80s.
80s.
Now I'm like second
Whoever
guessing
owned that house
myself.
probably made a
Oh,
fortune.
79. It's 79.
79. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
that's
right
what
on
I
the
thought.
cusp.
Yeah. But this was 87.
Yeah.
So like 10 years or so later.
Yeah, it
less than
was
10
really
years.
kind of when Italian horror was starting to wane a fair bit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's everything. We've
Yeah.
already mentioned everything else. Was there
Yeah.
any other fun facts you wanted to mention?
Oh, like I said, the naming thing is by far the weirdest part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's such an interesting Italian trope to do that, because like you don't see that, like you will see that in some movies like Prom Night and Prom Night
Oh, yeah.
2, Hello Mary Lou. Like there
Yes.
at least is afterwards they did connect them, like it's the same high
Yes.
school, even though
Yes.
originally it wasn't written as a sequel. Like that'll happen, but this movie has
Yes.
nothing to do with it. Like
No.
with the
Nothing.
first two Evil Deads, there's no
Yeah.
connecting threads.
And I love
Nope.
that it's connected to the House franchise as well, which
Yeah,
House
again,
2 is my favorite of the franchise.
I love House too.
Me too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was like the
All right.
first House movie I saw because of the cover, and it had George Wendt.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a great movie, completely different than the first one.
Mhm.
And it was definitely the kookiest and the most fun of all of them. And
Mhm.
I don't know if it was intentionally trying to be horror comedy, but it definitely was.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that one is intentionally trying to be funny because, like,
Yeah.
it's got comedic actors in it and such. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. Even a baby Bill Maher, which is crazy.
Oh, really? Oh my
Yeah,
God, it's been a while.
he's briefly in it as one of the character's agents or whatever, and
Oh my gosh.
he's basically just playing a typical Bill Maher,
Makes sense.
before he got political. Yeah. All right. Let's get into rating this movie. Laura, you are our guest, so I'm gonna have you start. And please, I understand it's one of your favorites, so there's no right or wrong answer
Right.
here.
So this movie, I've watched this movie, like I said, many times on Letterboxd. Let me see if I can see, because I've rated it several times. Every time I watch something, I put it on Letterboxd, and I just, yeah, I've given this movie 4 stars, 4 out of 5 every time I've watched it. It is so strange and bizarre and exactly what I'm looking for in a weird surrealist Dada-esque but not intentionally like surreal movie. But I could understand in terms of actual filmmaking, this movie does not deserve my 4-star review, but I refuse to change it. It's 4 stars.
Hey, you love it, so
You love it.
Exactly.
yeah, that's what's important.
Yeah.
So
And we usually do out of 10 stars. So
Oh, 10.
Yeah.
So I would give it 8, 8.5.
Okay.
Eight
Okay,
and a half.
8.5.
Okay. So there's a lot of things I don't like about this movie, but there's a lot of great things about this movie that kind of remind me of other movies that I love, like Poltergeist. And, it's got all the tropes there that are essential for any horror movie, like the burning of the bodies, the Poltergeist-esque type things. So, I think that those things redeem itself, and the kills are brilliant. The little bit of gore you get is fantastic. So I'm gonna lean more towards like a 7.
Mm.
Yeah. So like I it took me a few times to watch it, get all the way through it, and I'm not gonna lie, but I was leaning more towards a 6 initially, and then I'm like, as we talk about it, maybe it's not so bad. I'm just gonna give it a 7, solid 7.
All right. Anybody who knows me knows that I love 80s horror.
Yes.
It's my favorite decade of horror.
Yes.
80s horror. I also love Italian cinema. Goofy movies are fine. I had a real hard time getting through this. Yeah, a real hard time. I would put it on and, not gonna lie, fell asleep. And so I put it on and fell asleep again. After about the 5th or 6th time, finally got through it. I really like you, Laura. I really like you. I've enjoyed you being on here.
Please come back.
Please come back. Don't hold it against me. This movie, not so much. I originally was like, oh God, we're having a guest. I don't want to be mean. I'm gonna give it a 4 just to be nice. And as we talked about it.
Legit, what is your actual score?
But as we talked about it,
okay,
I would say this. I have to go back to my original. It's a 2. I would not recommend seeing it. But if you guys do recommend it, I may be wrong. Please watch it and you let us know what you guys think. But yeah, for me, it was a 2. Will not be rewatching.
And like your I like you, but not this movie is pretty much what my husband always says to me when I make him watch movies where it turns out he's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I'm like,
I do the same thing with my wife.
Yeah.
I do the same thing with my wife. We'll be watching the movie. I'll be loving it, and we'll get done, and I'll look at it. I'll be like, "What she think?" And she'll be like, "Why the hell did you make me watch that?"
I just had a moment recently with one of my friends. We were watching X, and he was like, "Why are we watching this?" I was like, "So we can get to Pearl."
I love X.
I love X.
Love X. I'm so excited.
It's a
for
great
Maxine.
movie.
Oh my god!
Can't wait for Maxine. Yeah,
but no, and like we do a trade off, my husband and I, where like if he's gonna watch one of these movies, where I'm like, I think you'll like it. I will eventually have to watch something that he has picked.
yes.
Right.
But I've already put on like a veto of like I will not watch another Planet of the Apes movies.
I love the Planet of the Apes.
I went and saw the one with James Franco in theaters with him, and I was like,
that one's rough.
I don't like apes. I don't like apes at all. And it's so funny. So just as a like this is the garbage I love. And a movie that's well reviewed, that spawned a huge franchise. And I'm like, this sucks. Oh, I know objectively it did not suck. I know objectively as a movie, the Planet of the Apes movies are very well made, good stories, etc. They're just not for me.
Exactly. Right. And that's completely okay. That's why art is subjective and everybody likes what they like, and sometimes they can't help what they don't like.
That's it.
So
I do recommend to anybody to read through the Letterboxd reviews of this movie.
Yes.
Because it is very much like this round table right here, where if you like this movie, you like this movie, but you like it because it's so weird.
Exactly.
And if you don't enjoy this movie, it's because it's so weird. And the reviews reflect that, where some of them are like, I love this movie, and you better believe I understood every moment of it. I wasn't confused. Yeah. And some of them are like, what the hell is this? What? Yeah. Who's watching this? So yeah.
Those are the best movies, in my opinion, where you have such polarizing opinions. So yeah.
I love a good polarizing movie because like it's just like, on either side, because at the end of what I expect from a film is to be entertained. It doesn't have to be good. I just have to be entertained.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
I tell my wife that too.
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't have to like it. You don't have to be good. And I don't want to have to think about something either.
Exactly.
I'm like, I'm watching a movie. Entertain me.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't want to have to spend the next 3 hours after the movie dissecting it and looking for all the symbolism in it and stuff like that.
I want to cry. I'm too sensitive. I don't want to cry. I don't want to deal with like deep thoughts, because I'm like, there's enough deep thoughts in the world. I want escapism.
Right. Exactly.
So give me murdering clown puppet dolls that have been stolen from dead children and given to other dead children. That's cinema.
That is true cinema.
Give me murdering dolls too. Just give it to me in Poltergeist.
Yeah. All right, guys. If you have different opinions than us, if you agree with Laura, or if you're more towards what Ethan's saying, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. This is a very unique kind of movie. So yes. So please let us know what you think. If you have any other suggestions or topics you'd like us to discuss, whether it's true crime, whether it's horror movies, let us know, because we are here to cover all of your horror essential needs. And don't forget to like, follow, subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you to everybody that has done that. We really appreciate your support.
We certainly do. Thank you.
Yes. And if you ever find yourself in a horror movie, please remember, don't have sex, don't do drugs.
And don't die.
Bye.
Bye.